we have her lover, Jim Trimble. Jim is the ordained priest at the Emmanuel Episcopal Church, and he's been public radio to the pulpit. His belief in the power of storytelling to break down barriers and unite hearts is truly inspirational. Father.
Dr. Nesbitt, the county health director, was almost crucified when he decided that the people of Wilmington, North Carolina, could no longer keep cows in their backyards. My friend Claude went on to describe the old cow shed in the neighbor's backyard that he and his friends used as a clubhouse. The old concrete slab feeling cool on their feet in the heat of the Carolina summer, the walls falling down, the gaping hole in the thatched roof. He pointed out Nunny, an older woman whose cabin shared that yard. She always kept one eye on this little band of misfits and was known to actually keep their secrets away from curious parents. Claude Howell was a painter. He was an art historian. He was a storyteller. He was a radio commentator who lived most of his life in the coastal town of Wilmington. And we crossed paths in the early 1990s. He was beyond retirement age. I just graduated from Murray State University with a degree in broadcasting. And on a whim, I moved to Wilmington, staying at a friend's guest room. I finagled my way into a job at the local public radio station, and one of my duties was to edit and record the local commentators. There was Nan. She worked at the county library. She wrote about books. There was Andy, the state naturalist. He shared his love of critters. And then there's Claude. Claude told stories of many different things. He told stories about growing up in that town on the water. He told stories about the essence of realism and naturalism in modern art. He told stories about his parents, local architecture, being arrested in Paris, France. I think he might have also been a nudist in Paris. He didn't probably have a towel with him. Claude didn't have a car, so he was driven to the radio station. He took his time sauntering through the door, down the hall. He placed himself in the most uncomfortable studio chair. He produced his typewritten manuscripts from his old leather satchel. He did this for a number of years. And then after a while, he declared, because Claude did a lot of declaring, he could no longer make these trips to the radio station. He asked, could someone come to my house and record my stories there? Well, my boss thought that was a great idea. He gave me his address. Here, Jim, here's the recorder and a microphone. Go down the street. This was at the corner of 5th and Market Streets in Wilmington. It was across from the Bellamy Mansion, First Baptist Church, but Claude wasn't living in a house. He was on the 3rd floor of the Carolina apartment building. So, flashback a few years. My friends and I went to see the David Lynch film Blue Velvet. Anyone? Yeah. Isabella Rossellini's character, Dorothy, she lives in the Deep River apartment building in Lumbertown. Weird stuff happens in that building. I need not go into any details. So here I stand at the entrance to that very collection of weird stuff, because at that time, Wilmington was a hotbed of filmmaking. Blue Velvet was one of the movies and TV shows shot in town, and Deep River Apartments was actually the Carolina apartment building. I was freaking out. The narrow wooden double doors, leaded glass, leading to the tiled lobby, an even narrower elevator. I could never imagine how people moved their stuff into those apartments with that elevator. Claude welcomed me into his home. I immediately noticed every inch of space was covered with art. A painting, a statue, a funky plant, crazy furniture. He gave me a brief tour. He had a small kitchen, a small office, but really big living areas for entertainment. He created a special spot for us to record. It was far from the noise of the traffic out the open window or the sound of the always running fans because there was no air conditioning, even the hum of that old refrigerator of his. He proceeded to tell me in this little bitty space, it wasn't even a room. I could sit on the floor, crisscross applesauce, with all my audio equipment, and just let him talk. If he had to start over, it would only be that sentence. He would never start over at the beginning. It always led to creative editing back in the studio. And we went like this for a few years. Claude shared things with me outside of his commentaries about his life, his loves, his art, his wardrobe. I sometimes had to remind him, when I come over, when you answer the door, please wear pants. He added me to his list of friends that were always welcome every day at 5 o'clock for cocktails. The commentary, which began with his recollection of that old cowshed, was one of the first recordings we made up in his apartment. My little band of friends took note of St. James Church starting to build a new parish house on top of the old city cemetery dating back to the early 1700s. While they were digging, we found a few skulls that we brought back to the cowshed to act as objects of our worship. Nunny took note of us. She informed us most of the folks from that cemetery died of the yellow fever. And we should be very careful we don't catch it ourselves. A little frightened, we would periodically check each other out, making sure our skin wasn't changing color. What we didn't know was the yellow fever epidemic in Wilmington took place long after these bodies were buried. We were in no danger. Nunny couldn't help herself. She liked to tell her own stories, too. Claude Howe was a fascinating creature for this 24-year-old Kentucky boy. Outside of the closeted Catholic priest that I grew up with, he was one of the first openly gay men I ever met. His paintings of life on the water, as well as the human form, are astounding. His accent, and I can never do it justice, pure gentleman farmer, my name rolling off his tongue with 3 syllables, Jim. The creme de la creme of the local arts community could be found on any given day at 5 o'clock cocktail gatherings. His work to preserve history, to preserve and explore free expression, knew no bounds. Claude taught me well the value of being present with people. Claude taught me well the value of listening to people's stories. Claude taught me well to raise a toast to the past while always hoping for the future.